places. If you stepped outside today, right here in the nation's capital, well, the same can be said for this area. Weather agencies on both sides of the pond warn that the extreme conditions could endanger lives across countries, many of which have limited air conditioning. Joining us now to discuss this and so much more is Mr. Gregory Wrightstone, a geologist and executive director of the CO2 Coalition, and author, by the way, of A Very Convenient Warming: How Modest Warming and More CO2 Are Benefiting Humanity. Mr. Wrightstone, it is an honor to have you on the show. Welcome.
Well, good to be on with you. Yeah, I was in London last week, and the hype over this heat wave in London was ridiculous. I'm calling my home's here in Florida. It was 93 degrees, for crying out loud. We just call that here. We call that nice and warm. These people were, it was death-dealing heat, and it's just unbelievable. How did these people survive the bombing of World War II if they can't take 93-degree heat? But the key here, the difference is, here in the United States, more than 90% of our homes have air conditioning. Over in London, I saw reports anywhere between 5 and 20% of the homes have air conditioning. And so it's tough to get out of that. Air conditioning makes it not survivable, but you can get by a lot easier. But people without air conditioning, when it's hot, it's difficult. And they're not putting air conditioning. They've even built modern hospitals without air conditioning because they're scared of this so-called climate crisis that isn't happening, by the way.
And that's what I want you to really touch on, because so many folks are saying, well, wait a minute, sir, a climate crisis not occurring, but go outside. It's beyond hot, to which you then say.
It's hot. But if you look, you can't just look. This is a weather phenomenon. It may break records today right here, but I'm looking at a chart that we created. We've got a report on Virginia and climate change. We just updated here a few months ago. You can go to our website and search for Virginia. It's great. But you can look there, and the number of days greater than 90 degrees has been declining since the 30s. They're not increasing. If this was CO2-driven global warming, we'd see an increase, wouldn't we, in this? But what we do see is an increase in the nighttime coldest temperatures, which is good for farming. It means that growing seasons are lengthening. It's great for agricultural productivity. And so we're in a warming trend, but we should welcome this warmth. As a geologist, I look back through human history to find that the great civilizations and empires all arose during much warmer periods than today. And things became horrific when it started getting cold. That's what history tells us. History tells us we should welcome the warmth welcome the warmth and fear the cold. Because some people would call me a science denier. I would call them history deniers, because they're denying what history tells us. And it's pretty clear. And also, I've got a chart we put up for from our Virginia report. We looked at record-breaking heat days. And again, more than 50% of those occurred during the 1930s. Again, that's nearly 100 years ago. At very low CO2 levels of about 280 parts per million. We're about 50% higher today.
Sure.
And that increased CO2 is doing great things. If you look at almost every ecosystem, and by almost every metric you look at, Earth's ecosystems are thriving and prospering, and humanity's benefiting from this combination of modest warming and more CO2. You might not call it today modest warming. You're probably going to say it's pretty hot. But again, you have to put it in this long-term perspective. What's been happening over the last several hundred years? And we see the peak hottest temperatures in Virginia, Maryland, in DC occurred again in the 1930s, almost 100 years ago.
Well, Mr. Wrightstone, if I could pose the question in playing devil's advocate here, obviously there is a flip side to every coin. And in this case, if we're in a warming period, at some point, dare I say, will we be in a cold period? And, well, I think I'd rather take the warmth over the cold.
You're darn right. That's really scary. At some point, it's going to get cold again. And these are natural trends we've got. If you look at the medieval warm period, it was much warmer than today. And when it started getting cold, in the 16th century, it led into the Little Ice Age, which was horrific. We had crop failure, famine, mass depopulation. It was a bad, bad time because of the cold. And if it comes again, it's not going to be pleasant. There's not much we can do about it. We can get out of the heat with the air conditioning. And again, 10 to 20 times as many people die cold-related deaths as heat-related deaths. So again, welcome the warmth. Well, if by that metric, we can state pretty clearly, global warming saves lives.
Yeah.
We would save many millions of cold-related deaths.
With regard to the temperature itself, sir, I just revert back to, what was it, February, January, when right here in the nation's capital, we were dealing with snowcrete. So much snow and so much ice, it was as hard as concrete. Now I think I'm really enjoying what we're dealing with now. I think we'll have to leave it there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yet again, Gregory Wrightstone, geologist, executive director of the CO2 Coalition, and author of A Very Convenient Warming, How Modest Warming and More CO2 Are Benefiting Humanity. We'll take a quick break, guys. We'll be right back.